tonight. So I'll start with Doug Logan. He's the Rotary Coordinator for Zone 28. Doug is a retired management consultant. He's a Paul Harris Fellow, Rotary Benefactor, and Rotary Bequest Society member. As coordinator, Doug's focus is on innovation and strengthening Rotary for the future. To this end, Doug and his team of assistant coordinators and innovative club advocates are implementing an action plan focused on growing membership and starting new clubs. Susan Davidson, who I know quite well, is a member of the Rotary Club of Bridge North, Ennismore, Lakefield, located just north of Peterborough, and home of the Polar Plunge. A retired educator, her initial Rotary passion was youth exchange. She has since had the opportunity to translate her interest and education background into wonderful opportunities for international service. She currently is a member of the Zone 2832 membership team and specifically involved in Rotary's work on diversity, equity, and inclusion. So Doug and Susan, welcome to the District 7070 President-elects for 2023-2024.
Thank you. Thank you very much. If you'll just give me 1 second here.
Yes, thank you very much, Beth. And Doug is going to get us set up here, and we're going to back and forth a little bit. I'm going to start. Doug's going to do some of the middle part, and then I'm going to kind of wrap it up, and then we'll break and have the opportunity for breakout sessions. So we're seeing your split scene. Yeah.
Trying. There we go.
Okay. So I think just starting off to the President-elect that are here, everyone here this evening, but President-elect, thank you for stepping up into the role. I think all of us would agree our organization now more than ever needs strong leadership. We've just come through COVID, a couple of difficult years, and now clubs are moving into their new reality, whether it be meeting only in person, a hybrid meeting, whatever that looks like. So we certainly do appreciate and your time and your effort in leading your club, because we know that leadership is probably the most key element in making our club successful. And there's no question that Rotary International is looking at expanding our reach and increasing our impact. And it's through our membership that we are going to do that. So there's lots of challenges ahead, but there are a lot of opportunities. So our goal tonight is to look at membership and understanding attrition and attraction, and the words that Rotary is using now more than recruitment and retention, and the words that we've heard in the past, and also setting membership goals. And there's no question that as we start talking about membership, we're more likely to be successful if we set specific goals, but also actions to meet those goals. So we'll have a chance to talk about that tonight. Looking at a growth club study, and Doug will take us through that, looking at an opportunity to look at clubs that have been successful over the last 5 years. And what are those attributes? What has translated into practice to help them be successful? And then, of course, the takeaways. What does this look like in your own club? And what are some relevant goals and some relevant actions as we move forward into the 23-24 Rotary year? And so, first of all, attrition versus attraction. And pretty self-explanatory. Attrition is the rate of loss. And it's just a given. We are going to lose members every year through a number of factors, sadly, passing away, moving out of our area, or things that we have a little bit more control over, such as the culture of the club. So this is the percentage of members who leave our club in an average year. Attraction, of course, is the rate of gain. Members that are admitted into our club. And when we look at that, it's making our club a place people want to be. And it's interesting, the discussion that we were having about younger people. And I certainly am one, I agree. We need to continue to maintain and respect our seasoned Rotarians or our senior Rotarians. Also, we do need to start to bring in younger Rotarians as we are getting older, we are aging, but it has to be relevant. It has to be meaningful. So members that are admitted to our club, but what is going to make it irresistible? What is going to attract members? So I think as we look at this, and I don't know if everybody can see this clearly or not, you should have received a sheet that looks like this on your own club's attrition and attraction. If for some reason you didn't, please let Beth know. I know Beth was responsible for doing that, and thank you very much, Beth. And this is information that Doug and Herb, his counterpart, have put together. And the first part of it you'll see is for your own club, your attrition rate, your attraction rate, and therefore a net growth rate. And in this club, attrition is 12.7%. And when we look at sort of national averages and Rotary average, 15% is kind of around. If your attrition rate is higher than that, then it's a concern. But 15% is really kind of the norm. And looking at your success targets, an attrition rate that is less than 15%, but then an attraction rate that is greater than your attrition rate, or 5% greater than your attrition rate. So it's looking at those averages back and forth. And in this particular club's case, probably one of the areas they want to focus on is that there is insufficient member attraction. And why? The retention's not bad, the attrition rate's not bad, but they are not bringing new club members in. And so why? And that is where the club would focus on looking at that. Looking down here, there's a membership history and sort of a 5-year history. And again, looking at this club, the last 2 years have been difficult. And you'd want to start to have those conversations. Is it because of COVID? Is it because of different formats? It's a way to begin the conversation. And if you look at this one, it does say membership goal setting 22-23. And definitely in this case, and I'm actually a president-elect this year too. So in this case, we are looking at 23-24. And this is our goal setting for 23-24. So start with looking at your membership number and what it was July 1st, 2023, or the beginning of this Rotary year. And looking at the membership growth and what our goal will be for July 1st, next Rotary year, 2024. And in this case, the goal is 20. So a net membership growth of 2. And in order to meet that net membership growth of 2, 18 to 20, but there is an attrition rate, I'm kind of looking at the averages, of 3 members a year in this particular club. So actually the new members needed in order to meet the goal of a net increase of 2 would be 5 new members brought in if the attrition rate remains the same as it has, or 12.7%. So that's a very brief overview. And I think as you start looking at your own goal setting workshop and look at the goal, or sorry, worksheet, look at the goals that you're setting, the number of new members, but also looking at, okay, what are the areas that we need to focus on? And the challenges that are going to translate into opportunities in order to help our club and show some positive growth. And so again, very quickly, attrition and attraction, club attrition, the average rate across North America is 15%. So that's just an average attraction is 12%. And when we look at District 7070, it's almost the same as the North American averages, both attrition and attraction. So we can see that the net is a loss. This is across North America. And this is why it is important to start looking at, okay, what are the attributes of clubs that are successful? And when we look at the clubs surveyed, and those are the ones that Doug is going to refer to in the study, the clubs that had an attrition rate, average rate of 12%. So still, I mean, people are going to leave, that's the reality, but their attraction rate was 23%. So what did those clubs do? What was the culture? What are the attributes of those clubs that supported them in that kind of growth? And so at this point, Doug, I'll turn it over to you to start talking about the study.
That's great, Sue. Thanks very much. So I'm going to spend most of my time talking to you about the clubs that we studied. And I think given the conversation that was started before Beth called the meeting to order, what I'm going to be ending up doing is challenging some of the assumptions that you might have about growth and younger members and what their interests are and so on. But this little graphic here is just meant to show you what the data has shown us clubs are experiencing throughout North America. So it just looks at those that have a high attraction rate and a low attraction rate against those that have a high attrition rate and a low attrition rate. So you can see that we have groups of clubs, such as the ones that we studied, that have growth culture And on the extreme opposite of that are clubs that we have just arbitrarily said are in a danger zone. And they're in a danger zone because they have a very high attrition rate and a very low attraction rate, such that it's not sustainable. And in between those, we have clubs that are sort of wavering and could go in either direction. We have groups of clubs that we say are aging out. They're clubs that often have a very, very low attrition and attraction rate. And they tend to be groups of people that are really happy with each other and quite content to stay the same. At the extreme other end of that are those with high turnover, and that's what we call churn. They have a lot of churn, a lot of people coming in and a lot of people leaving. And in between those two extremes, we have what we call a fragile balance, clubs that could go either way. So what I want to talk to you now about is the study that we completed last fall. And I would point out that our zone team has divided into a number of different focus areas. Sue talked about diversity, equity, and inclusion, but we also have an analytics team, and your very own Virginia O'Reilly has been a member of the team and a key part of framing this survey that we completed. So the survey, we looked for clubs across North America with the cooperation of all the coordinators in North America, for the clubs that had grown by a net of 10 in the last 5 years and had growth in at least 3 of those years. We ended up getting feedback from 30%, which is 85 clubs that showed consistent growth between 2017 and 2022. And an important point that I'm going to emphasize again on this slide here is club size. This is really important for all of you to look at, and it was really important for me when I saw it, because I was really worried that growing clubs were clubs that had a larger membership size. Well, you can see, in fact, 37% of the clubs that we were looking at that we surveyed had 7 to 25 members. 40% were 26 to 50, and only 17 were what we consider the larger clubs. So here's the key. It's not your club size that matter, it's leadership. Leadership is the key.
What Rotary leadership and leadership in general means to me would be taking the vision, identifying the vision, and then getting with the rest of the team to make sure that those visions are aligned.
For me, it is servant leadership. It is more of me helping other leaders to take a step to serve in the community through Rotary.
As president, you are supporting your leads. You are not doing all the work. You're certainly participating, but the lead is the responsible person.
Not taking my vision and insisting that others follow it, but working to build the team's vision together.
You wear a lot of hats. You take care of a lot of people, and it's a very just a rewarding when you look back on your year or look back on the last 6 months as to what your club has accomplished.
The support is so important, but as president, what you're trying to do is to make it easy for your leads of those service projects to really be successful.
I just feel that it's important that that our club leadership realizes that they represent everybody in the club.
It makes you feel good when you can really congratulate someone both personally and in front of the club at a meeting about a fantastic job they did on an event that we had.
I didn't know that Rotary would have a big impact on me as a leader. Rotary leadership has grown me into a person that I won't stop being a Rotarian.
So what do we learn from this survey? Clubs that are growing share the following 5 attributes, which I'll get into in a little bit more detail. They have intentional leadership and focus on effective governance in quite an amazing way. They have active, intentional member engagement, dynamic, meaningful service, strong public image, and a real revelation and increasing focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion. So let's look at those a bit at a time. So effective governance included in planning processes for growth, leadership continuity, and intentional membership focus. 81% have a planning process for growth. That's a significant number. They planned to grow. More importantly, 71% regularly update the plans. So they don't create a plan and put it somewhere. They look at it, they keep it top of mind. It is alive. And you can see that sometimes they're doing it quarterly, monthly, updating the plan. And finally, 83%, mostly in Club Central, but not necessarily, establish annual membership goals. The old saying is absolutely true. If you don't know where you're going, it's pretty hard to tell when you get there. Leadership continuity was a revelation. 89% have a president-elect at least 1 year in advance. Look at this. Almost 50% have a president nominee at least 2 years in advance. And I can appreciate that some of you are thinking, how on earth do they make that possible? All I will tell you as a future leader, imagine the difference it would make in you taking on the job if you knew that far in advance who was going to be following you. And more importantly, 92%, effectively all of them, have a club membership chair. So membership growth is top of mind. It's seen as everybody's responsibility. We did have one club in the study that is doing really, really well, that has a super member who has brought in an astonishing number of members, but for the most part, the club as a whole was engaged in membership and had the membership focus. And they had it as a weekly agenda item. But let's you listen to some of the club leaders.
When I joined the club, the president at that time, the immediate past president, the president-elect, and the president, I guess, nominee, sat down and they mapped out a 5-year growth plan for the club.
And so we try to look several years in advance, and when we get those people lined up, we want them to know that you're not in that alone, and that the past president, the current president, next year president, we're all in there together to help you.
What the club did is that it looked at itself as like a quasi-chamber of commerce.
We're very intentional about expanding our membership, but the reason that we feel it's important is because we're able to do more in the community. That's really the driver. We ask all of our members to participate in identifying new members. We believe that there are men and women in our community that have what we call a Rotarian's heart.
And we decided to add things that would be a business orientation. So when members join, not only are they doing service to the community, but they are also growing their business.
Just look for like gaps that we may have in our group. Like we'll have somebody like, well, does anybody know anybody who works in the middle school, or does anyone know anybody?
When we were a younger club a few years ago, we had no attorneys, and we said, who knows an attorney? And within a year, we had 3 very good attorneys that joined the club. We believe that there's a vigor attached to having people from all the different professions that we can identify involved in our club.
This year was our centennial year, so we tied many of our service projects and our membership goal to the number 100. Setting the goal was the big thing, and getting buy-in for everybody.
our club does set goals. We do talk about membership. It's always in our Rotary agenda for each week, because we talk about it so much that we seem to attract other people that want to know more about what is Rotary all about, or what is this specific club about.
So we talk about membership all the time. We target professions. We ask all of our club members to help introduce someone that they know that might be an asset to our organization.
It's always part of our conversations. Even when we have a social, we'll always say this is a great opportunity to ask and bring a prospective member to our Rotary event.
And everything that we do, whether it's a meeting, a weekly meeting, a service project, or a social event, is a recruiting event.
We're always talking about membership.
So one of the things that we hear very often, well, what about us? We have a small club. We don't have the numbers or the resources to do all the wonderful things that you talk about. And that is really true. It is a special challenge. I'll remind you, we had some clubs that started this period of the study with 7 members, and so they managed to do it. And so there are a couple of keys to those of you in the smaller clubs. One is to focus, find your focus, but the other one is to not be afraid to try different things. And I just want you now to listen to what Donna Boyles did in her club.
I decided as the president, we would have the entire club would be a membership committee, and I would divide it up into subcommittees. Focusing on retention, I had 2 committees. One was called Reach Out and Touch, and they kind of focused on the well-being of members, and they came up with a buddy system, so paired everybody up. And so if your buddy was not there, you contact them and have lunch every once in a while, or whatever you wanted to do. And the other committee in retention was Surprise and Delight, and we had lots of games or fun activities. And the very favorite one, I think, of everybody's, we did show and tell. And a member would come and they would bring something, and just like kindergarten, but they would show something that meant a lot to them and tell about it. And we learned so much about the members that we didn't know. And so, so those 2 focused on retention. And then I had Rotary Recruiter and highlighters, so that they would continue to look at ways to highlight our club. And the 5th one was called Explorers, and they were to explore the different types. And they focused in mostly on doing a satellite club because of those young professionals who said they wanted to be part of Rotary. They meet in the late afternoons after work, and I think that's been a success.
So the point of this was the willingness to try and look at things in a different way. And I forgot to mention that Donna's club at the start of the study, I can't remember the exact number. I think it was about 20 members, and by 2022, they were up to 37. So you can see, and you must be getting a sense now that we're talking about groups of people, groups of Rotarian that are very engaged, and there's a lot of dynamic activity taking place. And that's certainly true in the extent to which they focus on engaging the members and creating an opportunity for people to build relationships, strengthen relationships, and so on. And as somebody once said in the study we did last year, nobody wants to come to a dull meeting. So they focus on having meetings that are worthwhile attending, engaging, inspiring, informative, and so on. The meetings are consistent and flexible. We'll talk a bit more about that. And there's a focus on engaging new members and saying thank you. So being on top of who people are and what they're doing and thanking them for their contributions. 76% of the clubs meet weekly in person, but 65% use hybrid or virtual technology and continue to use it even post-pandemic. And here is a critically important point. And it speaks to part of the discussion before the meeting started. 29% created a satellite or an alternative meeting time as an opportunity for other Rotarians, as you will have picked up in Donna's video, how they had younger community members who wanted to serve, who were interested in Rotary, but they could not, because of their profession, make the meeting. So they created a satellite, an alternative meeting time for those members. And guess what? People joined and they began to serve and the club began to grow. And that 29% compares to 4 or 5% across North America. So it's a key ingredient and a key opportunity that I would encourage all of you to be thinking about in terms of you could, on the one hand, satisfy people who don't want to change, but create other opportunities for people as well. So engaging and thanking members, they have an orientation process. They take time to let the club know and club members know what the club has been doing and accomplishing, and then formally recognizing their members. But let's listen to a few of those leaders.
Our club meets on Tuesday mornings at 7:30. Our motto is getting up early to get more done.
Our meetings are open to anybody who wants to come, and we invite people to our meetings that could potentially become a member that we're interested in having as a guest to come to our meetings. We also have introduced this year, out of our 4 meetings a month, one of those meetings is a fun meeting.
And those social events are the type of thing where we would invite people to join us.
And fun night is a lot of fun. We play games. I think we're going to have a cooking demonstration at one of them that's coming up.
You can see smiling faces. We've made sure that we have the video of even O Canada was made into something with photos of us.
We did Rotary Trivia, which was really kind of eye-opening to see who knew what about the organization we belong to.
Our membership ranges in age from the 20s to our oldest member is 84. We have quite a few in their 30s and 40s, so it's a younger club.
So I think it's more being a vibrant club and fun.
We also have been very flexible in the last few years with Zoom. And it was a tough switch, and we had some old dogs that fought it the whole way, but they were trainable, and now they're loving it because now our snowbirds can still come to our weekly meetings from Georgia and Florida and Texas.
To attract new members, we've got to start adjusting to what everybody's time is. We're still doing hybrid because we can still have speakers from all over that can't always join the meetings.
We know there are a number of people who would like to be part of our club but cannot come at 7:30 in the morning because of work schedules. So we're trying to meet at least once a month at a bar or a restaurant and tell people what the projects are coming up and say, even if you can't come to the regular meetings, if you'd like to participate in tutoring kids or planting a tree or many of the different things we do, you can participate. And then often when people do that, then they get excited and end up joining our club.
I was able to work with the Innovative Club Advocate at the district level and get some guidance on how to start an after-hours group, which some people call satellite clubs.
We chartered a satellite club last year with 9 members. So that added, so that brought us up to 47 plus 1 honorary.
So 6 months before I took over, the after hours group was hitting its stride, and for that full year I had them, we almost doubled our number of service projects.
When the members are all happy and everybody is participating, that's how you're going to attract other new members, because you've got a happy family here.
So one of the most moving stories that we heard when we were doing the interviews of people was from Patty, the first person in that set of clips, and she was from the club, the Buffalo Sunrise Club, and you'll recall the mass shooting in Buffalo. What I didn't realize was that Buffalo is a very racially divided city. And what the club did was moved into the area where that shooting had taken place. And so the satellite club that she referred to actually was in that community. And the people were attracted because they recognized that Rotary was there to provide opportunities and service that were meaningful to them in their unique community. So let's talk a little bit about service and dynamic, meaningful service. So what do people do? Well, they have signature projects, sometimes very large, involving thousands, and I'm not exaggerating, thousands of people and fundraisers. They make a critical key point of inviting and including community members. They are actively engaged in service on an ongoing basis. It is a part of their raison d'etre, and it's a part of what makes them interesting and attractive to people who are not yet Rotarians. So 86% have a major project that they repeat every year. Well, my mouse got stuck there for a sec. They have a repeating fundraiser every year. They invite, look at this, 87% invite community members to their projects and fundraisers. 67% hold one or more event to attract new members. Their service, ongoing and active. Look at here, 40% had 10 or more service projects every year, and you're going to get a bigger number than that in the clip that you're about to see.
People participate in what they're able to and what they're interested in.
We do about 30 different projects a year, and so there is, I think some clubs talk a lot but don't do as many projects, and because we do quite a few projects, I think people feel engaged and they're accomplishing something.
Oftentimes, the members will bring some heavy laborers with them to do this stuff, to help us dig holes and clean up. And every once in a while, they decide that we look like a fun group and they do join us.
Town council wanted to do a Sweep the Acres service project. They wanted to clean up their city. Well, we heard about it and we arrived as Rotarians in force.
We found that the service projects was a catalyst or a reason some of our younger professionals joined, just to be involved in civic activities.
That was the place where we talked to so many community members who were excited about cleaning up their town, and several of them, well, especially one I inducted on my last day as president.
The Legacy Club did a service project a month, and so did the After Hours group. And we found that a lot of young professionals were drawn to that, seeing the club out, not only with the larger group, but with the smaller After Hours group.
One of the things we do is let them know what we do. We have a road project where we clean up the road, part of the road between here and Franklin.
We invite the members to bring their children, their spouses. We
have a wood chopping project where we'll locate wood, we'll chop up the wood and give it to the emergency council for people who heat their homes with wood that don't have enough money to buy wood, so they have it available there.
we are able to help our members and members of the community do the things that are important.
And the expectation is every member must or should participate at least on one committee within the organization and be ready to volunteer for one or more of the activities that we're engaged in on behalf of service.
People
So I want to
participate in what they're able
Excuse
to
me?
and what they're interested.
talk about public image. Before I do, I want to emphasize one of the points that some of those club leaders were making, and that's the way that many of them flip the conversation with prospective members and current members about service. So instead of saying, we've got this project, we would like you to come and help us do it, they start a conversation that's based on what is it you want to accomplish? And a lot of those clubs then built support around that person's interest. And in the case of one of the clubs specifically, it didn't matter what that was, as long as the club member had the capacity to bring other people. It might have only been 2 or 3, it could have been 15 or 20 to support it. So it's about thinking about it in a different way. And of course, the clubs had a very strong public image. They were very active in use of media tools. They focused on member attraction in their public image, and they understood it's not just doing, it's being seen to be doing. So 95% use Facebook, 21% Instagram, 77% have their club website and keep it up to date. And this was a bit of a surprise to us. We still have 55% using local print news outlets, which is particularly true in the smaller communities. And they're using public awareness to focus on member attraction, holding events to attract new members, which I talked about before, focusing on ensuring that there are many members that are sponsors of new members, and inviting community members to their projects. As somebody said, this is the secret sauce, inviting other people to participate in your service inspires those people to become part. And then the last attribute is the extent to which clubs increase their focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion. They did not all talk about it that way, but broadening their membership was intentional, an intentional focus. They worked really hard to ensure that their club membership reflected the community and creating a welcoming environment. So just to summarize the 5 attributes before I turn it over to Sue, they had strong intentional leadership that was focused on governance and effective governance. They had active, intentional member engagement and creating an environment that people had fun, liked each other, grew their friendships, strengthened their friendships, and just wanted to be part of it, something special. They provided dynamic, meaningful service that was relevant to club members and relevant to the community. They had a strong public image, and they began to increase their diversity, their equity, and inclusion. So that's the summary of the growth study. We can come back to that later on, and I'll turn it over to Sue.
Okay, thank you, Doug. And just before I move on a little bit, I did want to just talk for a little bit on diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I think when we think about it, and often, clubs will say, well, we are diverse. We have people from a variety of professions, we have a variety of ages, we have a good gender balance, maybe depending on our ethnic community. To me, the important part of that is, yes, we have a diverse diverse club, and there's opportunities for people to be involved, but is it truly inclusive? And I think this is the time where we have to have that really good hard look. Is our club accessible? And yes, you might be welcome to come to our club, but is there a physical barrier? Is there a financial barrier? Is there a meal barrier? Do we only serve one menu at each meeting? And is it, beef, for instance, or is it something that, pork or that a group would not eat? So I think we really need to think about the inclusivity. Are all voices heard? Does everybody have that same chance to have a leadership role? And Doug talked about, what is your passion? Bring your passion. Does everybody have the same opportunity to suggest, promote a project, a fundraiser, an opportunity? So I think it's the inclusivity part. Are our clubs truly inclusive? And by that being welcoming and all the things that go with it. And I think the more you sort of stand back and look, stand at the door and look into a club. Is it welcoming? Is it inclusive? Do I want to be a member of that club? Do I see myself reflected there? So I think those are some of the things we need to start thinking about when we are thinking about the diversity, the equity, and the inclusion of our Rotary clubs. So I guess to summarize a little bit, looking at a club with a growth culture. And this is obviously a club that is probably doing many of the things that the clubs were doing in the study. It is not a time to rest on our laurels, because if we aren't being proactive and moving forward, we're going to be moving backwards. So it's looking at what is it we're doing that is successful? What is working for us right now? Understanding that, probably sharing it with other clubs and with other Rotarians, but continuing to build on that. Is our club as inclusive as we would like it to be? Do we truly reflect our community? Are we extending our reach in the club to the extent, or I'm sorry, in the community to the extent that we can? So looking at that, what is it about our club that is making it work? And being proactive. How do we enhance it? How do we continue into the future? Are we going to have to adapt? And what is it going to look like as we move forward with it? A club with a high turnover. And I think this is one that's, we often hear that Rotarians leave after 2 years. And there's a lot of reasons for that. And it could be club culture. It could be, there might be seen as being bullying in the club. Is there bias in the club? Is there burnout? Do we have a few members doing everything? And that's certainly very common in many, many clubs. Is there lack of appreciation, lack of respect, lack of recognition, lack of opportunity for impact? So it's taking a good hard look. And sometimes these conversations are very, very difficult. And they have to be had with respect. They have to be had with all voices being heard. Often needs to be a moderator, but truly looking at what is it about the club that is causing that high turnover? And how can we find out? Well, yes, the conversation, there's a lot of information, things like the health check from Rotary International. And that is a way to start, get some input from members. I know that the exit survey, and I know that your membership committee has put together a good exit survey and finding out why did people leave, and but having those conversations, trying to get the honest answer, because often people, aren't quite as forthcoming on paper when something has to be typed in and sent. So having those conversations, because if we don't know why people are leaving, and if people are continuing to leave, then maybe we need to find out the answer to these truths before we start to invite new people into the club. The danger zone. And I think, and again, none of this happens in 1 year. So a club that is really struggling and has been struggling, it's not due to one president or one board or one leadership team. These things happen over time. And over, maybe it's a weak leadership or lack of leadership over 2 or 3 years where there really wasn't a good governance, there wasn't a structure, there wasn't an opportunity for involvement. So truly looking at the leadership, what is it that we need? Do we need to change? Is it time to have a good hard look? Are we adapting to today's reality? Are we relevant to our community or to the people that we want to attract? So finding someone, is there someone that's willing to be that champion for change? And change is tough. There's no question. I mean, look how long it took Rotary to invite women into membership. Look at the changes that have happened with council and legislation in the last few years. Number of meetings a month and that kind of thing. Change takes a long time and it's hard. So it's finding that champion or finding that group of people who are willing to work for change, but it has to be done in a positive and respectful manner. And there's certainly lots of supports at the district level, at the zone level. There's different opportunities for that support from different people. But it's really, and this is also a time you might start to consider some of those alternatives. And you'll have an opportunity in a few minutes to talk about what might that look like. How do we attract younger members or members from a different group or a different ethnic background group? What do we do to bring those people into Rotary? And so it's looking at the reality of where our club is at and looking at these innovative opportunities to enhance our growth. And then, of course, club is aging out. And I think Doug spoke to that. And one of the things I always think is, a lot of senior Rotarians do become Provost members. And it is almost like an extension of Rotary, doesn't have the same number of meetings and the same meeting expectations of fundraising and service work. Although that's a lot of the reason a lot of people have joined Rotary. But so how do we accept that and that our club is aging out? And maybe we need to have an alternative, maybe a satellite club or an impact club or a different club that we can work with? Or what do we do to make the club irresistible and more attractive to younger members so that members are coming in, but we also have to maintain some of those traditions. And again, it's a balancing act. It's respecting the traditions of the club, at the same time, looking at adapting to be relevant to people today and to our communities that we work in. And then, of course, the last one is the fragile balance. And I think a lot of our clubs fall in here. And yes, our membership is staying about the same, and might lose a couple of members a year and gain a couple. And that might be working really well for the club. Some clubs say, no, we have an optimum number. We want to be a club of 50, or we want to be a club of 40. And that works for us. But looking at our leadership and looking at all the things we've talked about, and as leaders walking the talk, and is our governance, our goal setting, failing to plan is planning to fail. Looking for new avenues of growth within our community. And I don't know if any of you heard Paul Emsley last year, and it was I know he came and spoke at a district membership meeting, but also looking at, he was part of one of the videos in last year, and looking at reaching out to the community. And his club experienced tremendous membership growth during one of the COVID years. And a lot of it was those opportunities to go out into the community, to bring community members in, and things that they did together, always involving the community. Engage people with their passions. And again, as Doug said, like saying, do you want to come to a meeting? No, what's your passion? What do you want to talk about? What do you want to try and do in our community? How can we work together? How can we facilitate those opportunities? So it's all of those attributes that we just talked about through the study, and bringing them together and trying to bring that fragile balance a little more to the area of the growth culture. So I think now is a good opportunity to have some breakout sessions and to talk about what this means and what this looks like in your own club. And John is going to put us into random groups. I think they'll probably, I'm looking at 38 participants, so probably 7 or 8 per breakout session. And I would say it's almost 20 after 7, so 20 minutes at 20 to 8, we'll reconvene. And if you please have somebody kind of moderate and a recorder. And the opportunity here is talk about your own club, looking at your own club and what are the challenges, but also what are the opportunities, and sharing some of the information that we've heard tonight, sharing some of the best practices that you're already doing, and coming back with how do we create that culture for growth. And coming back into, we'll very quickly debrief with 1 point per group. So if every group will come back with one sort of salient point or salient idea to help grow membership, whether it be to attract members or whether it be to bring the attrition rate down. So 20 minutes, opportunity to talk within yourselves. And if anybody wishes, as you record, if you send it to me after, I'll put my email number in the chat, or my email address in the chat, that I'll collate the rest of the conversations and put them together and make sure they get to Beth to be sent back out. But for now, just 1 point per group at the end of the discussion. So John, if you could work your magic, and we'll talk about opportunities for growth.
Everybody should now have an invitation. No. No? Nope.
No.
All right, let me close and start again then.
Okay, now.
Now, who have we got left? We got a couple of sleepers. Nisi, are you not in a room somewhere?
I'm supposed to be joining too, but I'm not really here as a president-elect, so.
Go ahead. You
Okay.
can use, you
we
can
have
use
Lynn-
the experience, so go right ahead.
Perfect.
So we have Lynn and Kenneth who still have not joined a room.
There's a problem with Nisi. I think you can take the action yourself. There we go. Now there's a problem with Kenneth Chin, and it's not Kenneth, but they have not completely been able to get in. They're stuck half in, half out. I'm not sure what to do. I've never seen this happen before.
And what about Lynn?
I could force them into a waiting room, but I'm there.
There, Kenneth's gone. What about Lynn?
What about who?
Oh, she's gone now.
She's gone.
Oh, Kenneth's back.
This is back.
Yeah, there's a problem. Oh, there's a problem with this. Kenneth has been trying to come in for the past 45 minutes. Is stuck half in. I'm not sure that there's anything I can do with this window.
There you go. He's gone.
So
Yeah, it just moved them back into the waiting room.
Oh,
Yeah, because he's going to come back now again.
there he is.
His session never stabilized, so I'm not sure there's anything I can do with it.
Kenneth, can you hear us now?
No.
See, if you look at the small window, he's got the 3 dots, but he should have the 3 dots in the mute, and the sound never showed up. So something's missing. I've not come across this before. I don't know what to suggest. I'm open for suggestions if you like. Did somebody start the clock?
No.
You
can It's- it's
stop. You're about 3
7:24.
minutes.
Yeah,
You can stop recording.
Start the clock for 15 minutes, I
You
guess.
want me to pause the recording?
Yes. A lot of excitement. So thank you.
Yeah, no, excellent. Yep, good idea. And again, that takes in so many of the attributes of successful clubs, right? An engaging project, engaging members, visibility in the community. So absolutely. Room number 5.
Yeah, we had 6 clubs in our group. 3 of them have been somewhat in decline, and 3 of them are increasing in their membership. So that was a nice split. The one thing, just if you want one point, was the fact that the clubs that are increasing are spending some time to socialize with each other, setting aside a meeting once a month. Rotary was, after all, founded as a friendship organization. Acquaintance is that opportunity for service. When we get together, we get to know one another, we get to like each other. And when you walk into a room where people like each other, you want to join. So there's our one point.
Excellent. Good. Thank you. And so true. And sometimes we tend to get away from our roots, don't we? In Rotary, we think of how it started, as you said, and it's okay to be networking, and it's okay to be social. It's okay to join for friendship and fellowship. And I think sometimes we forget that there's a lot of different reasons to be part of Rotary. Room number 6.
I'm not sure we had a room 6.
Okay, then room number 7. Or are we done?
I don't think we had it. We had 5 from what I see here.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, Okay, well, I hope I mean, I've written down the comments that were made, the 5 points, and I think I've got it fairly accurate. I will definitely get this typed up and I'll send it to you, Beth. I hope the conversations were valuable. Definitely some good points came out, and I think as we listen as well to people like Jennifer Jones when she talks about caring for our members, and Gordon McAnally, and we heard in the talks tonight about what is a reach out and touch someone. That the friendship, the fellowship, the connections with each other are so critical. And I know through COVID, for a lot of Rotary clubs, that's what had even better attendance through hybrid meetings, because people wanted to maintain those connections. Not a hybrid connection. That's not what we aim for, is, the being together virtually all the time, but those connections with people. So I think it's so true. Those social connections, the networking connections, any of those opportunities are very, very important. So thank you. And Doug, do you have any final thoughts?
Sorry.
I'd like to just make a comment about the last person who spoke about having a social event. Our club every single month gets together since COVID for breakfast, one time every month. And when there's 5 Wednesdays in a month, on that 5th Wednesday, we go to a pub and go out. And usually there's 12 to 15 of us. So it's and it's sometimes the wives of friends, whatever, but it's so much fun, especially since COVID.
Well, I just a quick comment to wrap up. Steve, from the Port Hope Club, did the conversation with the mayor. Awesome idea. I really appreciate. And the fact that you have a group of people working on something that is so important to your community, every community practically, it's going to resonate, and watch out, I would say, for what's going to happen over the next few years with your club. But the one observation that I want to make with you is just to draw your attention back to when Sue was talking about the attrition and attraction data. Okay, the data is clear. In North America, we do not bring in the number of people we need to grow, period, end of discussion. And there's 2 primary reasons for that. One is that we don't ask. We simply do not reach out and ask people to join. And the other one is people don't want to have anything to do with what we're selling. Okay, so we have a product that too many people don't want to buy. So my message to you is find a way to look at the product you're selling, and don't be afraid to reach out and ask, because there's no question that especially nowadays, people still want to serve. So that's it. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Yes, and I did put my email address in the chat. If anybody has notes, send them to me by this Friday, and I will collate them and get them to Beth, and I'll get the ones I took tonight to Beth. So absolutely, yes, thank you, and good luck with your year ahead, President-elect. There's no questions, it's a challenge, but it's a very, very exciting opportunity. And your leadership is going to be key to the success of your club and the success of your district.
Okay, Susan and Doug, excellent presentation. I know that everyone was listening because I was watching the faces. And by the way, they were even taking notes. They definitely got some of the messages, believe me. As a thank you, we will make a donation of $200 in each of your names to the Rotary Foundation. And I enjoyed your presentation, and thank you so much. A round of applause, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Doug and Susan. Great to see you both. Thank you for a great presentation.
Thank you very much.
And great to see all of our president-elects. So this completes the president-elect training for the 2023-2024 president-elects. You did have an in-person session in early February, and you've had 4 virtual sessions to date. So
Oh,
this is
they got one more, Beth.
Oh, yeah, I was just going to say, now you have an important one for which I am not responsible, but your district governor-elect is, and you will be visiting Evanston, which is the headquarters for Rotary International. Yeah, there's Tina. She's all excited. I see her, and so is Nisi. Okay. You know, it really, I know when I went as a president-elect, it really helped me to really see the global nature of Rotary International. We all knew it was an international organization, but when you're at the headquarters and you see all the flags of the world, it's awesome. It's awe-inspiring. You'll have a great time. I know you'll do some socializing, but there's a lot of education too. The Rotary International staff at Evanston do a wonderful job in doing a variety of sessions that will be of interest to all of you. So
do we have an itinerary for the same?
You'll be
John.
You'll be receiving it soon from the travel agent. She will combine the travel itinerary and the itinerary for Evanston.
It'll be nice to know the time, the flight time, so we can arrange accordingly.
Oh, you're going to be up very early in the morning, believe me.
Drops in at 7 a.m.
Oh, it's
7 a.m. out of Pearson. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Thanks.
Let me warn you, and Joseph can attest to this. Get in even more earlier than 3 hours, because we just made the plane, didn't we, Joseph?
Yeah, it's so get in early.
Give yourself
Yeah.
4 hours. Isn't that awful? But that's Pearson.
And one thing that I gotta please keep in mind: only carry-ons, no checked-in luggage. It's one night only. Do not bring carry-ons or a checked-in luggage. Only carry-ons on the trip.
Anyway, we're going to have fun.
I have a question. It's a great learning opportunity. Thanks, everybody. Good night. Have a great rest of your evening.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.